Welcome, everybody, to the Yo Kids Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Gargano. This is the podcast that surrounds everything youth sports. So I've covered pro and college sports, the highest level, and I have fallen in love with youth sports. I'm a big believer in sports for children. I just think it's such a great outlet and keeps them out of trouble, they learn so many great life lessons. So as we go forward with the podcast, we're going to be talking to a lot of different people in the world of youth sports. We'll talk to some professional athletes who have children of themselves. We'll talk about the journey of the athlete. We'll highlight some of the terrific youth sports athletes across the Delaware Valley and beyond. But really, we really wanted to try to give some advice to the parents. Listen, if you got a good story, good idea, please, like I said, hit me up and we'll get to Yo Kids Sports Podcast. Hello. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Yo Kids Sports. Do me a favor and hit the subscribe button right there. And all these incredible guests, like the next one we have on, it helps us get the word out. This is all about youth sports. It helps parents. It helps young athletes. It's all about the good that we can serve with something that we love, which is sports. And as always, we're brought to you by Primo Hoagies. Go to primohoagies.com and check out the most valuable coach competition that we're doing. This is pretty cool, where you can send your own youth coach to the big game. So make sure you check that out. My next guest, and I love him. He's built an incredible program. He's an amazing basketball coach. He's also an incredible teacher to kids, and he does things the right way. Carl Arrigale, the coach of Neumann Goretti. Coach Carl, we love you. What's happening, Coach Carl?
What's up, man? How you doing?
So,
brother, thing you got going here?
Right off the bat, man, let's just give a moment and talk about what you've built at Neumann Goretti. And I mean, the slew of Catholic League titles, the championships. I mean, sending all these kids to colleges to get an education. Can you believe that where you sit right now, 2023?
No, not really. I never thought I would be doing it this long, for one. I mean, I thought it was interesting, to give it a shot, when I had the opportunity to interview for the job and become the head coach. But never had, I'm doing it longer, more than half my life now, so it's just been something that was inbred in me, though. Like, it started back when the grade school I went to, King of Peace, is now closed, but it was your cousin Joey. Your cousin Joey and I, we went through grade school together. He's a little older than I am, but he'll tell you it was an amazing place. I mean, it was really tight-knit, family-oriented. And what they did was they always had, besides the regular teams, they always had this intramurals program that they had. We didn't have enough kids to play football, so we played touch in the schoolyard. But we had the basketball and the baseball that played competitively in the CYO and everything. And then with the intramurals, it involved all the kids. And what happened is, as you got older, you got to coach the younger kids. So it kind of gave you like a little bit of a bug, like to be the coach. Like it was this thing. And then if you made the team, the grade school coach at that point was tough, man. He was tough. He was old school, and he coached you hard. So, like, I was fortunate enough to make the team when I was in fifth grade. I made the 7th and 8th grade team. I wasn't going to play, but I was good enough. They wanted me to be on the thing just to see how it was. So I got coached hard from when I was like 10 years old, and so it kind of sticks with you. And then you're coaching the thing, and then you kind of always have it in the back of your mind, maybe, and then my dad was a guy that got involved with coaching and stuff like that. So it was one of those things that I was kind of in my mind. And I had, I played for Speedy Morris in high school and at Penn Charter, and it was a great experience. I mean, it took a little getting used to, but it was a great experience. And the way he impacted my life, I always thought, like, wow, if I can do that to one kid, it would be pretty neat, it'd be pretty cool, so. And then I went off to college, and it wasn't as great. My college career wasn't great. It wasn't, my relationship with the coach wasn't as good and all, but I came back, and it was just a happenstance. When I graduated college, I ran into Mike Doyle, who was a friend of mine. We went to high school together. He went to O'Hara. I went to Penn Charter, and we were at a awards banquet together or something, and we were friendly. And I run into him just by chance, and he's interviewing for the Neumann job at that point, to teach and coach over there. And he asked me, would I be interested, if he got the job? I said, yeah, let's talk. I said, it's definitely something I would be interested in, because he wanted somebody from the neighborhood and all. Because even though I went to Penn Charter, I was a Newman guy. I lived in the neighborhood with all the Newman kids. So,
And don't forget, our Yo Kids Sports podcast is presented by Primo Hoagies. Listen, know what I've always said for years and years and years. It's not just a hoagie, it's a Primo. And this fall, whether you're tailgating, football, soccer, it's youth, you name it, make sure you got your Primo Hoagie party tray. Nothing like it for the big game. And speaking of football and the big game, this fall we're giving away a trip to Vegas to see the very big game to one very lucky, very deserving coach. So if you know a youth coach that you think deserves recognition for their outstanding dedication and passion, make your nominations today. PrimoHoagies.com. You can go directly mvc.primohoagies.com. Our most valuable coach promotion here at Primos. I love it. We got to shine some love, give some love to these youth coaches that spend their time, many of whom just getting an earful and no compensation. So they're the best. Nominate your favorite coach. Again, it's the Primo Hoagies Most Valuable Coach Contest. I love it. I think it's great. And who knows, maybe they'll get to see the birds at the big game. Wouldn't that be something?
he gets the job, and then he hires me, and then I'm there, and then he leaves after a year because he gets a better teaching job offer in Jersey. And then the JV guy took over, asked me to stay, and then he was there for like 4 years, and then he was going to move on. And then it was just the timing was right then. It wasn't right before. And then I took a shot at it, and here we are. 30.
What year was that? What was your
That
first
was
year?
31 years ago, man. It was like
Wow.
when I first was my first year as an assistant. This is my 26 years the head coach. And I mean, I didn't think I would. I said, I'll give it a shot. I had no idea how long it would last, if we'd be able to do. I had a little bit of a vision. I didn't know if we'd be able to do it, but and then my second year we made the final and we lost, and then my third year we made the final and won, and then it just kind of took off from there.
That's amazing. And all those Catholic League titles and all those playoffs and all the whole thing. I mean, what an amazing ride. When you step back sometimes. I had this conversation with Jay Wright once, and we were talking about after the second time when he wins it the second time, and it was how he had finally kind of had a handle on what the program was. Now everything wound up changing, but there was a period of time where the perfect recruits came in, they would stay, and for somebody would go to the NBA. But like building a program is almost like you need certain parts to keep the thing churning. Is that kind of similar, even though it's high school?
Oh yeah, no, high school, it's gotten harder, to be honest with you, because of the climate of the sport. I mean, our thing was we would have a good group, and we'd have a good group waiting, and we'd have kids that would wait a year or two, and develop behind the stars or the better players that we have, and then they would get their turn, and there was always a next group that they would be handing it off to. And what that allowed us to do is to create a culture that was conducive to winning, and we would always have the next group in line, and and now it's like it's completely different. It's like the microwave age now. Everybody wants to play right away. I mean, they think if they're not playing as a freshman, they're not going to get recruited. I mean, I've had guys that didn't start until they were seniors. They got Division I scholarships. I mean, so
Right.
but there's so many people that are directing these kids and talking to these kids and giving them bad advice. And basketball is a sport that you don't need anybody else like to get better. You just need a ball and somewhere where you can bounce it, or you can walk to a court, or so it's a sport that anybody can really work at. So the kids that don't have everything, that can't afford, the football equipment to play on a football team, or can't, don't have
Baseball,
a
I
buddy,
mean, yeah, I mean,
that can have a
sure.
catch with them every day, or pitch them BP, or go to the trainer that charges $75 an hour to soft toss so you hit them into the net, and stuff like that. Basketball, you could do it. I mean, you could play with your buddies, you could watch the game a little bit, but now, it's evolved into the training situational too, but you don't necessarily need that. So the lower income and inner city kids can, really work at it and get good at it. So, and then they just get influenced by so many different people now. And, they don't think along the same lines as somebody like maybe myself that has been in it for a long time and likes to cultivate a team and develop and have the guys that play behind a guy. Then you become, the rotation guy. Then you become the starter. Everybody wants everything really fast now. And that was going on in college for a while. And now it's kind of changed because of the NIL thing. Kids are staying longer. College basketball is getting old. Because they can make more money staying in college than they can after they graduate, because they're not good enough to make it maybe in the pros, but they're making enough money to stay in that school and help them, make it to the NCAAs. And then the school's making money when it happens. And, it's just a weird thing. And it's funny you brought Jay up, because I don't even know how he would do in this climate, because he was a guy that, when he got the DiVincenzo's and the Bridges and all, nobody wanted those guys. They all redshirted, and he turned them into NBA players, and they were there. And same thing, like kind of like I was talking about, like what we try to do. And kids had to stay there and make, and make the commitment to the program and to their style and stuff. And with the portal and with everything now, it's just not that way. And kids transfer high schools. I mean, if you coach a kid hard, you got a chance that he might not be there. He might they'll leave in the middle of the season. I mean, so it's just crazy. It's a way different world. Like I've seen it change so many different ways over my time, but it's probably, to me, it's at an all-time worst right now.
Let's dive into that a little bit. Like, what has changed dramatically, like when it comes to that? Like, what's been one of the issues, or series of issues that that has really affected you?
Well, I think the social media part of it has become so big. It's just self-promotion. There's so many different outlets now, as far as who ranks players and who, has an opinion, and and there's just too many guys to fight now. There's just too many, to fight the fight. It's just hard. Like, they anoint these kids when they're like 10 years old. By the time they're 15, you can't even talk to them and their parents. They think they've arrived, and you try to tell them they're not ready yet. They need, another year or two or whatever. I mean, kids, like, that's the one thing I've noticed over my time, is that some kids walk in the door ready. Some kids don't. Each kid's a different, story, but everybody wants to, like, they want it right now. They want that offer when they're a freshman from, Cal State Bakerfield. Is your kid really going to go to Cal State Bakerfield? But no, you can post it. My son got his first offer, and they like it. And then there's these guys, like the handlers and guys around, that can get this done for these kids so they can keep themselves in their lives for in case they do get there. And then they help them make these decisions, and the parents believe in these guys because, they got them an offer from a UTEP or a place that they're never going to go. Right. And I tell some of these parents, I'm like, have one of those friends of yours that got the Southwest Missouri State offer as a 14-year-olds. Call them. They probably don't even know who the kid is. One of the coaches probably said, "Oh, this kid's pretty good. All right, let's offer him." And then maybe down the road, they remember us as the first team that offered them, and we might be in the mix. And normally my thing is if you got these aspirations of your kid being, this star, well, the lower level schools are the ones that offer first because they try to get you before you get bigger. So you're not going to want to go there anyway. So what's the difference? Right. But it's just all, it's just all stick out the chest, and they want to. And you honestly, we lost the game last year. We came back from Hawaii, number 6 in the country. We won a big tournament in Hawaii. We came back with our point guard. We had like a dual point guard. One of them was injured. He got hurt out there. Our big guy's mom passed. He had to go back to London for the funeral. I mean, so we were going shorthanded. I knew we were in trouble. We weren't deep to begin with, and we go, and we lose the game, first game back. We just traveled, around the world. We come back, we lose the game, but our guards make some great plays in the game, like where they, drop a guy or cross a guy over, this and that. You would have thought we won by 20 the next day, like with how many times the highlight tape of and we lost the game. Well, you would never know it. Like, you could never tell if anybody played good or bad anymore, because there's a highlight tape out minutes after the game. Because there's so, like, when it first started, it was like crazy with the bloggers would be at the game, and guys would be, you'd catch a couple stories about the game or something. Now there are cameras everywhere. You go to do the start lineups, there's 5 guys laying on the court taking pictures of the guys coming out through the, just coming out, shaking hands, getting their name started out. And then there's, like I said, there's highlight tapes everywhere, and you can't tell if guys are good, bad, and that's what it's all about right now. And everybody's getting involved with it. There's just, you go to like a little summer event where you're playing on a weekend or whatever, and there's cameras everywhere. I mean, and fall, anything you do, there's cameras in the face of these kids, and then they ask them questions and interview them, and they're getting treated like NBA guys when they're 14 years old, and
they're babies. I mean,
they're not even good yet.
You're not equipped. I'm sorry, like, you're not equipped to handle media attention like that. They're babies when it comes to this stuff. Is that the AAU culture? Is that part of it too?
It's part of it, but I don't want to, like, that's the easiest way to do it, is to blame the AAU. I just blame the overall culture of this. I mean, of the sport. The climate of the sport's it's just crazy. It's all about the flash. It's not a lot about substance, right now. It's it's about the grown-ups, really. The grown-ups are ruining it. In other words, it's not the kids. The kids follow the grown-ups lead.
Sure.
And you're getting the grown-ups are the ones with the cameras. You don't see 15-year-old kids running around with the cameras, doing these things. You see guys in their 20, and then all they want to do is make a thing about somebody, make somebody feel good. They think they're doing whatever, but what they're doing is they're hurting some of these kids sometimes. Some kids they're helping. Like when they do it for a senior that doesn't have anything yet, and they're putting word out, you should be on this kid, or you should be looking at it. That's helpful. But when they're doing it to a 15-year-old or 14-year-old, saying how he's going to come on and be a star in the Catholic League as a 14, 15-year-old, it doesn't happen. There's not too many of them that ever have done that. Have come in as a freshman and just made a big splash. I mean, you can come in there and play and survive and contribute, but the next big thing, the next one, he's going to, and then the next thing the kid's averaging 6 a game, like through 8 games, and then he maybe feels like, it's the coach's fault or somebody else's fault. I was supposed to be this. Well, what's going on, is just, there's just a lot of, misinformation, and stuff. And instead of just letting the kids enjoy it and grow up and play and feel themselves get better and work at it, it comes to a point where there's just like just for instance, we played, I don't know how many games this fall. They have games, fall things in the weekends and all. There used to be one event where you would break up your open gyms and you would go just for one weekend and go play 2 games and just feel good about just not your guys not scrimmaging against each other or whatever. And, before real practice even starts, some teams have played like a full season already, so then there's no room to grow. And then all of a sudden you got parents mad already. The season didn't even start. My kid's not playing enough. He's not shooting enough, and stuff like that. That's going on. But it's just the way it's set up now, because everybody's making money off these kids and everybody's kind of exploiting them in a little bit in some ways, but not to a point where it's terrible, but everybody's trying to, get their own a little bit out of this thing. And it sends a bad message, I think, sometimes. And with the kids fall right for it, they love, what kid wouldn't love to see,
Yeah,
you
you
got
can't
two
blame
young
the
ones.
kids.
If there was a thing of your son making all his hits and all in football, he would love it. He would love it. I mean, it's just human nature. It's normal. So they posted, and then it's on their Instagram story, and then their friends posted, and every one of their teammates posted, and then it goes on for like 3 or 4 days. And they might have lost by 20, but he got his 5 highlights out there, and it looks like kids don't care about winning. It looks like kids don't care about the team. And it's just a bad look, but they don't know it. They just want to, they want people to see their highlights.
Yeah, and you'll often wonder. Part of it is, you said, it's the adults, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, is just advice for the parents, because every parent, look, we're all guilty. We love sports, so especially in this area, we love sports.
More
So
important than sports, we love our kids.
exactly, and you want them. Listen, sports is good for kids, all right, and 99% of them aren't going to play Division I anything, right? But it's good for them to play from youth through high school. It just helps them grow, mature, keeps them out of trouble. So you want to keep it. But the dark side is everyone has delusions of grandeur, right? And there's no, like, basketball is one of the worst places for it, because in basketball, it's always been about the next. I remember when you remember the name Harold Miner, they called him Baby Jordan, right?
Mhm.
And this was after Mike, and everybody, oh, the next Jordan. And it's like, we don't even, it starts in the NBA, filters all the way down through high school and college, high school, and youth, because we don't even look at, like, Zion. You can't even embrace kids anymore and just enjoy the way kids grow and play. Right away, they got to dominate. They got to be all over in everybody's face. There's got to be a separate scroll about them. And
Well, look
basketball
at this
teams is
scrutiny this kid Wembanyama is going to be under now.
oh,
The first time he has a 6-point game and he doesn't have a great game, everybody's going to be, I told you he wasn't that good. I mean,
yeah,
he's from a different country. He's trying to get used to the NBA game and all. Just let the kid grow and play. But it's just, there's, I mean, you made a living doing it, but there's the talk show host. Then there's the 1,000 things on the TV. You go from, if you wake up in the morning, you can put one on at 6 in the morning and watch them all the way till you go to bed. And guys, analyzing, like, they'll have the MVP favorites this weekend. They played 2 NBA games, the preseason, Dame Lillard will be the number 1 MVP guy because, he torched the Sixers last night. He'll be the leading for MVP after 2 games of an 82-game season. Like, it's just, everything's just sped up. It's just bananas. Like, they got Minor. I mean, that kid, he couldn't even stay in the league. Then it was J.R. Ryder. He couldn't do the same thing. I mean, and Jordan was different. There's never no another Jordan. I mean, Kobe was the closest thing, to it. And nobody was saying that because he came out of high school. He was 18, when he came in. Nobody was saying he was the next Jordan until he started playing like him. But it's just
LeBron.
It's insane. Like, and then the same thing now, like I said, the whole college game kind of evolved. I mean, guys were looking to go to college and they were looking to do the one and done thing and all now. And now, like, we gotta kind of advise our kids a little differently, on the recruiting process, because you're not only getting recruited against other high school players, that if you wait now, and there's going to be another 1,000 kids in the portal.
Oh yeah,
with 2 or 3 years experience that play your same position. So they might not want to wait and develop. So if somebody really likes you, wants you to come be part of their program and wants to develop you and wants you to come there, you better really think long and hard of it, instead of, like, some kids used to say, all right, I'm going to wait, prove myself and see, if I get somebody else, or whatever, or use it as motivation. But now it's not the smartest thing to do, because, college basketball got a lot older in the last couple of years, between the portal, the COVID, everything. It was like just a perfect storm. Then the NIL thing came, and you got the kids are making money now, and I mean, I'm okay with that, I mean, I think with all the money they generate for the schools, but the imbalance, I think, is going to hurt it at some point. I mean, the haves are going to really become the haves, and the have-nots are just going to be stuck in the middle of it. I mean, if there was some way that they could kind of make it even, where you could pay, because you're going to have kids that'll go and stay somewhere, just for the money. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Miami paid a lot of dudes last year, and they ended up in the Final Four.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love Coach L. He's a great guy, but that kid Pack that they paid, like, I mean, not to point anybody out, they paid like 800,000 or something, got an NIL deal, 800. That kid's not an NBA player, so he's going to stay in school because he's not going to make 800,000 when he graduates, whether he goes has a regular job or goes plays overseas, or he might prove me wrong. He might end up making an NBA roster. I don't know, but like, for instance, that girl, she's a genius. She's like a genius. That Angel Reese, she's going to stay. That Caitlin Clark, they're going to stay their whole time. There's no reason for them to leave school.
Yeah,
they make 275,000 in the WNBA. NBA. They're making over $1 million each, both those girls, and getting an education on top of it. So why would they go anywhere?
It's amazing because the NIL almost saves college basketball, like in a weird way, because I always think that the college game became like the great blue bloods were like half-baked pies. Like, kids would come, one and done, and you could never get any continuity. The kids weren't ready to go to the NBA, which hurt the NBA. And, the college basketball was at its apex in what? Go back to the last time was in the 90s, when you had all those great teams, UNLV and Michigan.
Everybody stayed 3 years. Everybody stayed 3 years and 4 years. And then, and they were there, and you got to know the teams, and it was
right.
And if you lost, like Duke, when they lost to UNLV, then they came back the next year, and it was like almost like a rematch.
Yeah,
minus a guy here, a guy there, and they got them the next time after they got embarrassed the year before, and like that stuff wasn't happening for a good long time because the teams were just constantly changing. That's where Jay figured it out, though.
Yes,
he had the kids that stayed and developed them, and then when it got tournament time, he had the kids that were 21, 20, 21, 22 years old, and with experience, and cared about each other, and went through everything together. And then they went through the tournament and they won it. There was a couple for them to be able to do that, but that's a small school like that compared to the other big giant schools is unbelievable. Now it's a whole nother thing. Whoever has the money is going to be able to keep the kids or get the kids, but at least it's a little older now. And like you said, a lot of those younger kids aren't going into the NBA and then disappearing 3 years later.
When does the process start for you? Let's look at young basketball players. Let's look at the kids, right? Like, when the kids come on your radar, what's the advice for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade kids? How's that? What's the optimum? What should happen? Let's dive into that world a little bit.
My advice might not be what everybody else's would want to be, but my thing at that age, make sure you're having fun. Make sure you're loving the game and develop a love for the game. Because then if that happens, then you'll get better. Because if you love the game, then it won't be a chore to get you to the gym. Like if your kids love going to football, I mean, they're playing football now, your boys. I mean, then you don't have to ask them. Buddy, you want to go? No, they're ready to go. They're waiting on you, But what ends up happening is a lot of these times these guys are just dragging them to make sure they're having fun and they're loving it, and and they're enjoying it, and then get a good look. Be realistic if you're a parent. I mean, let your eyes tell you the story. I mean, some guys just don't, they just don't want to believe that their kid's just not that guy, but if he isn't, support him still. Make sure you play, because like you said earlier in the thing, sports is a great thing. Like, I don't know where I would be without sports. I played it my whole life. Most of my friends are through sports, and most everything I do has something, related to my experiences in sports. And, so you could become a well-rounded person through all your experiences in sports. But you don't have to be the best guy for that to happen, and the parents just don't want to let that go. And a lot of times it's sad because it's a parent that had it maybe and didn't do the right thing and didn't see it all the way through. So now they're pushing their kid. Like I had a dad of a kid we've had a couple of years that, just was like on his kid all the time. And he had the best kid. He was just a great kid. I loved him. He was part of our team. I treated him like I treated our best player, but he was a back end guy. I mean, and his dad just didn't, his dad put so much pressure on him and stuff like that. And then one day he asked me, I said, listen, he's probably not going to ever play for us, but he'll never not be on the team. He deserves to be on the team. He comes, works hard every day. He's a great kid. He said, you should be happy about that. You got yourself in the world that we live in today where, teenagers are shooting each other. Your son's a great kid. He comes to school. He does his work. He comes to practice every day. He's going to go to college. And if he wants to play basketball in college, if he goes to the right school, we'll be able to play. And right now he's playing in college, for a Division III school, type of thing. But that's not good enough for a lot of people. And it's sad because it should be about your kids' enjoyment first. And then if you see them, you'll see it. You can see it. Like I have run a camp every year, and I see the kids, they come and go and, and that's the ultimate, the camp, because it's from like 8, 9 years old to like 15. And half of it's usually parents just love to know that they're going to be able to put their kids somewhere for the week. They're going to be safe. They're going to be tired when they get home, because they got to go to work. Some kids are there to learn and play and you could kind of see it, the difference in all the kids, but they're all having fun. At the end of the week, and they all made friends and stuff like that. But then you can tell, like, all right, these guys are going to keep getting better, and they'll probably be playing high school someday. These other guys have a chance or whatever. And these other guys are just going to play basketball for fun for the rest of their life. What's wrong with that? It's just something they'll be able to do with their buddies. But they just don't let it play out. In other words, back to the original part of the question, they just don't let it play out. Like they shouldn't be putting pressure on a 9-year-old or an 8-year-old to catch like a coach's eye if you what's your name? If you're you happen to walk in a gym, and you might be looking at it, watching a nephew play. Like I'm not going anywhere where there's 10-year-olds playing and hoping I see somebody, but it might be a friend of mine's kid or
right,
something like that. You're just going to see the game or whatever, and then and then they think, oh God, there's a coach from a high school here. You got to have a great game. You're 9 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it should be fun, should be enjoyable, and then just see where it's taking them. And then then if it gets to that point where you need a trainer or you need things, or the kid loves it, the kid's like, Dad, I want to get better and this and that, and you can't. Then you look for the resources to do all that. And when they're that young, I mean, it should all be about fun. Get them in leagues, get them to play, learn how to win or lose, because there's a certain age where it's the cupcake and a trophy, and then, then they got to kind of get past that and know that there's a winner and a loser. Not everybody wins every game, because there's winners and losers in life too. You're not going to have the best day every day,
right.
Just as you go up the ladder, and like I said, everybody's in a hurry. Everybody's in a hurry for it to happen. The best 10-year-old isn't always going to be the best 18-year-old. Sometimes you get a kid that's, really big and strong and just more developed than everybody when they're 10, 11 years old. But then that kid, we're Italian. Then that kid has the hairy legs and the hair under the armpits and all when they're like 13. And then the other kid is 3 inches, 4 inches taller, and all of a sudden, you're like, it's over for you, and then the other kid, and then you're not the best.
Yeah, we peak in 9th grade, freshman.
Yeah, then you're the role player, and he's the star. I mean, but the way it is sometimes.
No, listen, and that's why half of this stuff is ridiculous, because we're looking at kids pre-puberty. I mean, like that whole era. Like you've seen how many kids you've seen come into your program, and then by the time they're seniors and leave, how dramatic the change is. I mean, you see it every day.
Yeah, no, like I said, like like there's guys like, for instance, like I had Tony Chenault who finished his career at Villanova, Quade Green that played at Kentucky and Washington, Jaquan Newton that ended up at Miami and had a great career. Like there were three guys, for instance, that when they came as freshmen, you could tell they were different than most freshmen that walk in the door, and that they were going to be able to compete at that level and help us win games. And Tony ended up being a starter like midway through the year, because he just did it every day. He played better than the guy that was ahead of him. So I couldn't look myself in the mirror and not make the move. Jaquan came at the right time, the absolute right time. We graduated everybody from like a great team, and we were returning one starter and our sixth man. So there was just a whole new group of kids that were fighting for the minutes and fighting for the spots. And he ends up winning the starting spot. So he started from day one. And Quade came when Jaquan and them were older. So he just was good enough, and he was in a rotation. But then we've had other guys that were good enough, just as good as they were maybe when they got there, but there wasn't room for them then. So they had to wait. But then I've had guys like Troy Harper, who was a 1,000-point scorer at Drexel. Didn't start till he was a senior. Shea Brown, another kid, didn't start till he was a senior, just graduated from North Texas, and played Division I basketball. I mean, I can go on and on, but each person has their own journey, and you just got to embrace the journey. Nowadays, what ends up happening is those people stop in the middle of the journey and then just roll and go somewhere else and start a new journey, because they don't want to deal with, everything that leads up to that final thing. But my thing is, what I always tell parents, and they choose to listen or not, I'm like, listen, if your son comes in and plays as a freshman and has a great year, he can't go hardship and go to college. He's got to graduate high school. So most of the times, when he's a senior, nobody's even going to remember if he played or not as a freshman, or if he was good or if he wasn't, unless he did something terrific in like a big game or whatever, it'll always be talked about. But
You're right.
As far as the season goes, nobody's going to talk about, oh, Anthony was great as a freshman. Anthony's great as a senior. That's all that matters. And, whereas if Dante Vincenzo, for instance, has that great game on thing and then catapults him into the first round of the draft. So then it's silly for him to stay in school. He's going to be first round draft pick. But you can do that in college. You can't do that in high school. You got to graduate before you can go to the next step. But everybody wants all the attention, when they're 14 or 15, or when it's not necessarily even the kids. It's the older people that are involved with them.
Welcome to Primo. How can we help you today?
One old-fashioned meatball, and make it quick, because I got practice.
You got it. Coach?
Congratulations, Coach!
You've been nominated by your team to win 2 tickets to the big game.
Wait, nominated? So I didn't win?
Smile.
Not yet, Coach.
Most valuable
Not
coach.
yet.
Smile,
Not
coach.
yet.
Smile.
Come on, smile.
Smile
Coach.
for the cameras,
Smile.
coach.
You got to be kidding me.
Smile, coach. Yeah, you see the trap too, and especially basketball, where really any sport, but basketball, there's a certain body type, right? Like there's a certain, you can see, and the difference between a kid who's good ball player, right, and a kid who has a chance to be elite is night and day, because what they can do, their body type, what they can do, it's just you see it, and they're so rare. And I guess I've always thought with basketball that it's partly a trap. Like you could probably, if you're a baseball kid, you work at it and work at it. You could go play Division III, right? Basketball's hard, man. Basketball, it's the roster size is smaller, and the game itself, like the skill set and the size, it just is a different animal.
Yeah, but it's also a game that lasts longer for people too, though. Like you don't have 70-year-old guys meeting at lunchtime, playing slow half court like somewhere, playing baseball or football. So you can always play it. It's just a matter of what level, or
Yes.
My son and all his friends go and they still meet up to today, and none of them really were high school basketball players. Or they played other sports. They played baseball, whatever, and they meet up now. They play basketball more than they play anything else, and they go once a week, twice a week, and they meet up and they go play basketball and have a great time, and and they get together, and they get a sweat in and stuff. So like, there was a while back when like I was just out of high school and out of college and all, where like Saturday mornings, like guys my age would be playing against guys older, 9 o'clock in the morning, you know, after you were out Friday night. So it was great. You got a nice sweat in and stuff like that.
Stephen Jackson.
So it lasts. I mean, and then there are guys though that can overcome, with improvement and become somebody and whatever. But it doesn't have to be about playing in college. I mean, we had a great. I mean, all my friends. When I went to college, I hung with all the football guys because they were all from this. We were all from the same area, and all those kids could play basketball. They just weren't basketball players in high school, but they were all good athletes. So we would play on like Sunday nights and stuff like that, and everybody would be able to play and hold their own and all, and everybody, played a little bit, So there's, it's something that you can do for a long time. It's just, depending on what level of fanfare you want to do it with.
Is travel ball out of control? Like, is that a part? Listen, it's so weird because the baseball thing, you have to play travel ball, right? Because Little League is very, the disparity between the travel ball players and the Little Leaguers are just too great. But what about basketball? Like the grade school and now the travel ball's taking over basketball, the AAU and everything else.
No, definitely. It's starting younger and younger now too, and they got the AAU programs, and and the thing is, doing your homework as a parent. I mean, some of the AAU programs are very good. Some of them, have good intentions. They want to teach the kids. They want to make them better players. They want to teach them how to compete and not run from, coaching and stuff like that. And then there's other ones that are doing it to make money, and, trying to get a bunch of kids they can train, out of it and stuff like that. And then, and at my level, at the high school level, unfortunately, it's necessary. It's a necessary evil. And, if you're not in the right program, it's tough, but the way it's set up is they have those months in the summer where it's called the live period. And that's when the AAU ball is out on the road, and it allows a college coach to go watch a bunch of different kids, like hundreds of kids in one spot. Whereas if he came to my gym, I might have 3 kids that worth them to look at, So the NCAA has done a little bit better job, because then in the fall it kind of reverts back to go see the kids at their high school gyms. But the main part of it is really in the summertime. But they have given us a week in the summer, 2 weeks in the summer, where it's called the live period with the high school teams, where you have we have a thing called Philly Live here in Philly. There are a couple guys that run it, do a great job, and it's 2 back-to-back weekends where coaches could come out and see the kids play with their high school teams. So now they'll come out, it'll be days of games from like 8 in the morning till like 8 at night, and on various, 2-3 games going on at once, different venues. And, so that, like our kid going to Hofstra got, the Hofstra coaches liked him a lot better playing with us than they did with his AU team, because his AU team was on a team with a bunch of all-stars, and they're running guys in and out and stuff like that. And with us, he's one of the main guys, and he got to do some things and showed them, a little bit more of all of his game, than just the little bit of bits and pieces he was able to show his team. Now, some other guys are the stars of those teams, and, and they're the guys that are at the Kentuckys and the Kansases and stuff. And, but it's just something that has to be there. You just wish there was more good people running the programs. I mean, I'm not saying they're all bad. I mean, but there's just some people that care more than others, and and you wish that they would be giving the kids the right advice. I don't think anybody gives it, maybe the wrong advice on purpose. Nobody's out to try to hurt anybody, but some of the advice is tainted towards what you want for them instead of what you think is best for them. And we all don't have the right answers and all when it comes to that, but there's just a lot of people involved, and then what ends up happening is that I don't even get involved in the recruiting as much as once was, because they're not really interested in talking to me, because they know I'm not an influencer. I'm not a guy that's going to, like, if they get to me where I'm going to push my kid to them, I'm going to try to be honest with my guys and give them the pluses and minuses of what I think from each place. they want the guy from the barbershop or the guy from around the corner that has these kids' ears and says, yeah, that's the place for you. That's the place for you. Because they build a relationship with that guy and they make him feel comfortable. And, that's how the recruiting kind of stuff is going now. Like, they'll make contact, and then it was like, well, who's going to be in his inner circle? Who's going to be his gang? Who's going to be helping to make the decision? Not, which parent should I talk to or whatever. They deal with the parents, but everybody's got a handler. Everybody's got somebody that's, willing to be in the front of it and help to make the decision. So they're the guys that they try to get to and befriend and, make it about that relationship and more or less about, what you see down the road for the kid.
Yeah, that's wild, man. Because you used to be like there was a pipeline, right? Like, college. Like I remember Camden would send a lot of kids to Louisville, like back in the day, right? Like you would have that sort of thing where the high school coach was the guy. Like you sat with your coach and then you decided, like, this is what I think is the best place for you because you vetted it for them.
Well,
That's
there's some coaches that still get really involved because they want to be in there and they want to be the guy. But I feel like a lot of those guys are the guys that have interest in trying to push their kids to certain places. Like I don't want to be that guy that pushes my kid anywhere. I did it one time and I pushed him to the wrong place.
Wow,
and
really?
That was very early in my career. And after that, I kind of told myself I wouldn't do it anymore. Like I would just
that's interesting.
I would just kind of advise kids, and stuff like that, and give them the best advice I could give them and stuff. But what ends up happening, coaches, these assistant coaches that are getting paid to recruit these kids, more or less. I mean, most of the assistant coaches aren't even, they're recruiters. They're really not even like they'll be out on the road while the team's practicing and getting ready for games. They'll be running around seeing guys, and they're not necessarily always involved with the coaching aspects part of it. But they'll find a guy that's going to be the most influenced. And that's the one that they'll go after. And they'll out of respect talk to me and call me and stuff like that because they've been around for a long time. But most of the guys that know me know I'm not going to, I'll, guys I like and guys I think that are good guys and guys that I think would treat my guys good and look after them, take care of them. I'll make sure they're in the mix, but I'm not promising anybody like, oh, you're going to, I'll make sure he gets you. No, I could guarantee you maybe he talks to you or visits you. So, but then it's on you. After that, you got to make sure you sell your place to them.
All right. So say I have an 11 or 12-year-old and he loves basketball, right? And let's just say pretty average to a little skill type of thing. And he's playing for his school. So what's the advice? The kid loves the game. Let's just say that. I'm trying to get to there's a lot of parents that have kids they love like basketball is a sport where it's fun. Like I was having this conversation with my cousin Joey. We were talking about basketball's fun, right? Football practice is laborious, right? Baseball can be fun, but let's face it, a lot of standing around, right? Hockey's fun, soccer, you're moving, but basketball's fun because you're shooting. It's a whole part of it. So what advice would you give a parent of a kid who says, my kid loves basketball and he's 11 years old? What should we do with it?
Well, that's the key. First of all, if he really does love it, if you can see through that he really does love it, then, the first thing would be ask, what can I do for him to help him get better or, to make sure he still loves it? And if you're not a player yourself or somebody that could go make sure he's getting shots up or whatever, and then maybe look into like some low level training type things, or where you can get him in a group setting, maybe, or and then as he's getting better, maybe you get him with an individual that you might trust, and and then see how it's going, and the thing is, as long as they love it and they want to go and it's something they look forward to, and all, I don't think you should mind spending the money. But there's so many parents out there, like with this baseball, the softball, basketball, that they're dragging their kids there. Their kids want to stay home and watch cartoons, or they want to, be on their phone or, play the game, sometimes, and they're dragging them to pitching lessons and stuff, and they're 5'8", and and they're going to be 5'8", and they're not going to throw 90 miles an hour, but they're dragging them to pitching lessons so they can get the 8 strikeouts in the little league game, and they can run around and say, my kid had the 8 strikeouts in the little league game when they won. I mean, it's great. You want everybody, because if you're, if the kid plays well, he's happy, and you want your kids happy, and you want them to enjoy it. But the key, you said, is they love it. If they love it, then give them everything they need for it, but be practical. You can see, especially if you're, just try to be honest with your eyes and honest with yourself. I mean, if, and then there's all levels of it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a high school basketball player and not being able to play after that. I mean, if you could play, because it's great to be on a team. It's great to be part of that. It's great to understand the ins and outs of what a team's all about and what it takes to work with other people, and because you're going to have to do that in life. And that's one way you can do it, having fun, as long as it stays fun. And then it could, you can learn a lot of lessons with that. But it's the one that, forces that 12-year-old, to take it to a level where they don't want to take it. Now, if the kid wants it and wants to do it 5, 6, 7 days a week and is then go for it. Go for it. There's some kids that want it, and then their parents become all in and they go for it. I have guys that have been like that, but then there's, it's almost to the level of what the kid wants. Now, some kids might need a little push, because it's just their personality, but, that's up to you as a parent to figure that part of it out, but, as it's 12, 13, maybe have a conversation. What do you want out of this? Do you want to play in high school, or do you always just want to play in these leagues and have fun, and we'll keep you busy, we'll keep you occupied. There's a lot of guys that play the club ball or whatever, and and they just don't want to go to play high school because they don't want to practice every day. They don't want that commitment. They don't want all the time that it takes in the off-season workouts and stuff like that. They want to play when they want to play, which is fine, but some parents push it, then, and at 12, 13, you kind of have an idea. It's the 7, 8, 9, 10s that you push them so hard that they don't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
They don't want to play anymore by the time they're 14, because you drove them, away from it, but yeah, I mean, I guess each kid's different in a way, but if they love it, roll with it, to the point, try to have those conversations, those tough conversations. How much do you love it? Do you really want to get good? If you really want to get good, this is what we have to do. Boom, 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 boom. Are you willing?
Right, what work, like handle shots?
Yeah, are you willing to do that? Or like, if you have free time and I can't be with you and I can get, you're going to have the basketball. You're going to be dribbling in the basement, or you're going to dribble out backyard, or, and just work on the things. Or is it going to be, I got to spend $50 every time for you to work out? Are you going to do anything on your own? I mean, you're going to have those conversations. Sometimes it's what it is. It's like, the kid's only going to go when you could take him to somebody that's going to do it. And, then that becomes like, you really love it. I mean, do you have a basketball in your hand? Like you could practice your shooting form while you're watching television. Basketball. Simple. You can, you don't need anybody else when it comes to basketball.
Give us a drill like that you would say that if a kid really loves it, like they should work on and do this drill or two that would be helpful to them.
Well, actually, with shooting, it was crazy. It was like something I always did when I was younger, because we're all around the same age almost. I mean, and we were the cartoon era. Like, we didn't have all this stuff, and you were home and Happy Days and all that stuff, and it's the stuff we watched. But when it was on, like, I always had a ball in my hand, and I sat and I had the proper form like my dad taught me, and I just would flick the ball up, or I would lay on my back so everything was straight, and I would flick the ball up and try to make it come back to the same spot and just work on your follow through. Work, that's something you could do for 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, and it just gets the muscle memory going, and you don't have to do anything else. But if you have a ball or you have 2 balls, you can go in your backyard or out front, depending on where you live or whatever, there's a solid surface, you can dribble 2 balls at once, alternate, at the same time, pound them, or just, then put one down, just work on dribbling the ball, keeping it low, and, and then graduate to walking maybe a little bit with it and putting it between your legs and stuff like that, and just, advance it as you go along. And like I said, then, if you have a court nearby, just go and shoot. Like going back all the way back to the beginning of our conversation today, like my grade school coach lived in a house on a corner. So we had a big backyard. So we had a big slab of concrete with a court in his yard. I used to drive him crazy. I used to knock on his door all the time. They used to just let me in the backyard. I'd be in the backyard with his dogs by myself, just shooting on his court. You just find a place to go. I mean, there's playground. Unfortunately, now with all the nonsense that goes on, the playground, sometimes they have to take the rims off. But if you have a place that you can go by yourself and shoot for a half hour. Just work on it, on the things that you work on. And, and then that's how you develop, the love of the game. Watch it on TV, and try to figure out what's going on, and understanding all those guys weren't that good when they started,
Last things, I one of the things I want to highlight is you're shaping these kids. Like you're shaping them into young men, and like little things like going to Hawaii for a tournament. I mean, imagine taking kids that have never been on a plane, and all of a sudden you're showing them Hawaii. I mean, that ultimately isn't that part of the success of just educating children and young people through travel and meeting different people and experiencing different cultures.
Well, that was early in my career, one of my favorite coaches in the whole business, and one of the best guys you'll ever want to meet in your life, and a guy I truly admire, Fran Dunphy, told me it's about the experiences. It's about the experience, and that stuck with me. So going to Hawaii, we're going to Durham this year. We've been to Florida. We've been all over, different places, just the experiences and winning big games, losing big games, how you react and stuff like that. Just the experiences. Like we went to Hawaii last year and we won the tournament. The highlight of the tournament was something simple. It was like, I found out the one kid on our team that was ineligible to play, who was heartbroken every time we took the court because he couldn't play at the time because he was in a PIAA situation, and he doesn't have much. I found out, like, he's walking back with from like taking a walk along the strip where we were staying in his bare feet or whatever. He gave his brand new Crocs that he got for Christmas to a homeless guy because the guy didn't have shoes. And
That's beautiful.
I'm like, it's unbelievable. This kid who's going through all this felt enough that, this guy needed it more than he did, and, when stuff like that happens, you're like, maybe these kids are listening to you, because sometimes you don't think they are. And sometimes you think, you're just, because they're kids, they're moody. They don't always listen. They don't always think. But, when the guys come back, a lot of guys come back a lot of times. And when they come back and when, you see them and you talk to them and you see that they're all doing good, they're fathers now and stuff like that. And, that makes you feel really good, and it makes you feel like, all right, maybe you did have a little hand in that, and I think it's all through the experiences, and they, and they get to see that, and they felt really good about the team and the way they were when they were on the team, and then it helps them, and a lot of them are helping out in the game now and stuff like that, and some guys are coaching, some guys are training, some guys are doing things, all different things, or just being involved. And you just hope that anything that anybody did, like going back to saying the reason why I got into coaching, like I felt like if I could influence one person the way Speedy Morris influenced me and the way I live my life, I mean, it would be a success, and you just hope for that. And then when you see it sometimes, when like I said, when the guys come back, we've got a lot of guys coming back trying to help out and just want to be, in the weight room with the kids and help them lift, and or come to the game and want to come in the locker room and just talk to a couple guys after the game and stuff like that. And it's funny because they talk to about all the same stuff that they did. Now they got all the answers. And that's great though, because it was like, all right, now you get what we were talking about, 10 years ago or whatever, and now you're trying to have these guys avoid those.
Pay it forward, man. That's what it's about, paying it forward.
No, that's the whole part that keeps me doing it, really. I mean, because all the other stuff that we've talked about during this whole time, and the parents, the social media, I mean, it wears you out, man. When that last game's over, and with us, fortunately it's been like late February, March, because we've been successful. I mean, you're exhausted. And a lot of times we're looking around and we're like, the last thing that really we do and concentrate on is coaching. There's so much other stuff, where you want to, and the coaching part's the fun part. That's the part I enjoy, getting on the court, trying to figure out best way for us to play, best way to keep everybody involved, keep everybody happy, and this and that. But then there's always so much other stuff that goes along with it that kind of takes away from it. But it's all part of it, and you just try to keep pushing through.
Coach Carl, what a pleasure. You great. You had a great career, great impact on kids, and keep doing it. Thanks, brother.
Thank you, pal.
Hey guys, here at Yo Kid Sports, for Brendan Petrilli and myself, Anthony Gargano, I just want to thank you for hanging on our channel. We love it. All right, we love doing this content. Just do us a solid and hit the subscribe button, because the more people that we can reach, that we can amplify this thing, the better guests, the more content that we can produce. So do us a solid, hit the subscribe, tell your friends, your families, your coaches, get everybody subscribed, because chances are here at Yo Kid Sports, we're going to be talking about your kid or your coach. It's a lot of fun. Hang with us.